Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving me this opportunity to present my research. And as director stated, my name is Lenci Roishmuna. My thesis directors are Dr. Alexander Ganasho and Professor Pascal Duma. And my research topic is coastal submersion, erosion, and adaptation of local communities in Fiji. Before I start, I would like to just share a story just about myself. I was born in the Solomon Islands. I grew up there. Then I traveled to Fiji for study and work. I was working in Fiji for 2.5 years before I began my PhD journey here at UNC. So this is the motivation for my research. I grew up in a coastal village where the ocean is everything to me. But over the years, I've seen changes in the coastline, and the rising sea level has threatened to swallow our homes. And that affects our way of life. That led me to my PhD research. And my research is more than just data. It's a way for me to look for a solution to help communities like myself adapt to the impacts of climate change. Now, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, in their 6th assessment report, stated that about 50% of the population in the Pacific Islands live within 10 kilometers of the coast, and an equivalent to 50 or more than that of our infrastructure, the infrastructure that we rely on, are located within 500 kilometers of the coast. So this is an important information to take note of. However, with climate change and rising sea level, the habitability of coastal area will be affected. Fiji's government, in their National Adaptation Plan, have stated that about 85 to 90% of the population in Fiji live in the coastal area. And in some locations around Fiji, about 10 to 15 meters of the coastline have receded. That means have been lost over the years. And these are some of the villages that are facing this issue. Tongoro village, which is on Viti Levu, and Vanundigolo village, which is north of Fiji. Now that prompts the government to reach out to scientists and other stakeholders to come up with risk assessment frameworks for specific locations in Fiji. Also to generate maps and model to assist the government plan development as well as adaptation. And that, again, gave me the motivation to choose the topic on coastal submersion, erosion, and adaptation of local communities in Fiji. These are my research objectives. The first is to study submersion and erosion processes in selected location in Fiji, taking into account climate change, extreme weather events, hydrosedimentary dynamics, as well as ocean currents and human activities. The second is to kind of evaluate the needs of local communities and institutional governments, which are stakeholders in this research, and to co-create with them relevant products and information that they will need to plan adaptation at their communities. And the third is to formulate adaptation procedures to assist the government with their development plan. These are my methods. I have categorized them into two. The first of which is quantitative methods. I will use numerical modeling or simulation to study the meteorological and oceanographic processes that drive coastal submersion and erosion. The second is to do soil and change analysis to document the changes happening along the coastline, as well as identify risks. And this will be done through geographic information system and remote sensing approaches. Qualitatively, I will use semi-directive interviews with local communities and institutional leaders. And in that case, I will also do participatory discussion on the site with the community and do observation out in the field. So this is what my PhD calendar looks like. In August last year, I did my PhD audition. Then I started off doing my literature review. I sat with my thesis committee and we plan out our research, or my research rather. I've looked at several sites around Fiji, and that list was in the National Adaptation Plan. From there, I selected the sites for my research, and I get the approval from the government to do that work. I've also discussed with my thesis committee the relevant data sets that I need for this research. Earlier this year, I enrolled in first year of my PhD, and I've started working on a couple of tasks over the last few months. And the main one that I'm working on right now is to do a wave modeling of wave climate around Fiji. I will then look at the tropical cyclone events in that country. Then I will look at submersion and erosion modeling and soil and change analysis later on. But then in order to fill the gaps of where I don't have data set, I am planning for my fieldwork, which I will conduct next year, to collect additional data set, bathymetric, topographic data sets, as well as social data from my surveys. I want to share with you the first results I got from my wave modeling work, which I've done over a few months. Unfortunately, this is a short video, but I don't think I can play that for you. But what I have on the screen is over 44 years of data set from 1979 to 2023. And to look at the wave climate around Fiji, because eventually these have an impact on erosion processes in the coastal area. I've used a model called SWAN. The data set that I used, ERA 5, and what's hidden under this is SRTM, which is global topography and bathymetry data. And I've used a couple of software like MATLAB and MES2D to generate my model grid. Then I ran simulations, and I came up with this output. What you can see on the screen is the significant wave heights and direction around Fiji for that particular time, which is 16 May 1979 at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And there's another couple of results that are hidden under this. Unfortunately, I can't show you now. Yeah, and that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention.
The microphone is to answer to the questions. Bien, donc merci Nancy pour la présentation et la qualité du support également pour, on va dire, ceux qui ne sont pas forcément complètement fluents en anglais. Donc une belle qualité de support et une éloquence aussi de qualité également. Donc je pense qu'on a pu suivre assez facilement ce qui a été dit. Donc je propose voilà, de donner la parole au public et d'abord au jury.
Good morning and thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So if I understand correctly, you're originally from the Solomon Islands, right? And you did your studies in Fiji and so on. So the funding from this project comes from the Fiji government? Is that why you're studying Fiji? Or is it because you now choose to live there or something? Because the undermining question overall is, do you think or ambition that the knowledge or the processes which you will be able to put forward in your work can be adaptable in the Solomon Islands, maybe? Because you seem very concerned about your country of origin and the problem of sea level rise in your country. So do you think this will be an adaptable process and that maybe you can do that further on, later in your life? That's my question.
Sorry, that's a really good question. I apologize for not mentioning earlier, but my PhD research is funded through the ARD Arts grant. So it's a grant for students from the Global South, like myself. And the part of your question is the applicability of my research to my home country. Absolutely. And my research can be applied throughout the Pacific. And what I'm trying to do is to come up with methods that can be applied in New Caledonia, but New Caledonia has a lot of this type of project already running. And that's why the funding is for me to spend some time in New Caledonia and some time in Fiji. But over the past 10 years, I've been mostly in Fiji. I have experienced the situation at the country level, the need from the government, and that's why I based my research there. And it's easier for me to kind of do field work, and that then my research funding will allow me to do research in Fiji at the moment. If I have additional funding, maybe I can extend my research to the Solomon Islands. But yes, the idea is to eventually do the same work for my country in the future.
Well, thank you very much for this really interesting project and presentation. Just back to the question before, I'm a bit like surprised the fact that you choose Fiji as a case study because of the data you have to work with. You've been talking about SRTM. You're talking about climate change on coastal areas. So 30 centimeters accuracy means like really hard to really have this information of the coastal evolution. I mean, the really good thing is about the genericity of the model. If you ensure the fact that what you're dealing to, what you're aiming to, I mean, as a tool adapted for decision makers and so on, is adaptable to all the countries and territories within Pacific Islands, that would be really awesome. But also taking into account that we do not have all the same data everywhere. So the things that you base your works on SRTM, for example, this is a good way to make sure that this is applicable everywhere, but I'm not even sure that this is accurate enough. If you come to New Caledonia, if you work with the local data sets, you have 10 centimeters accuracy DTMs. If you go to French Polynesia, you would have like much more accurate stuff, thanks to LiDAR. So it will be really useful also to make sure that your models are adapted according to the kind of data sets that are available on the sites. Dealing with that, representing here Dataterra, we have links with the UN, links with French capacities to get data sets and so on. So we would be really happy to support these kind of projects with the main aim of ensuring the genericity for all Pacific Island countries and territories. So glad to share with you on that. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Yes, I agree with your concern with the data set that I'm using at the moment. the thing is, the approach that I'm taking is walking from outside, from the open ocean to near shore, coastal areas. What I have used the SRTM for is to look at the country level wave climate, to look at Fiji wave climate. But actually, absolutely, that SRTM data is not suitable for near shore coastal areas. So that's why I mentioned that in my next work, during the field surveys and so on, I will try to collect bathymetry data set that are really suitable to run models in the near shore, and that should give us a more accurate output. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm Elatiana Razafi, coming from the field of social sciences, and I do want to congratulate you for making this really easy to grasp. But I couldn't help thinking one of our tasks as researchers, in my view, is also to help our knowledge be disseminated within larger society. And I was thinking, how would a 5-year-old become sensitive and feel impacted? Because you talked about how you grew up next to the ocean. And I was wondering, how would children be able to grasp the importance of your research? So it was a very practical question. How would you put it in a few words for children to understand the importance of what you're doing?
Yes, that's a really good question, and I think it applies to all the research that we are doing. It's the practicality of our work, whether it's useful for us in the long term or not. And I'll first talk about my own research. I think at a community level, as a child growing up, I don't really understand what's happening, and not only children, but the adults don't know what's happening within their community, especially relating to the ocean. So I have looked at the literature, and there's a good work that has been done in New-Caledonia, in Uvea, where the community was encouraged to involve themselves in the project, and they are kind of the leaders in the project. So you ask them about, you prompt them certain question about what is the process that is happening here, and if they don't know, you then tell them, okay, this is what's happening, and based on observation and recommendations and so on. The Fiji government at the moment is trying to incorporate climate change studies into their curriculum, into the education. And I think that is a really good starting point for Fiji, and communicating climate change and its impact to children at a very early age is so important. How to do that depends on the leaders. I mean, whatever is being discussed in Fiji is kind of a top-down approach where the information is shared, but then it would be good to educate community leaders as well to be aware of what's happening so they can communicate it in a better way to the children. I hope I answer your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. It's very, very easy for us to have slides in French and speaking in English. It makes it easy for us to follow. But due to what you are trying to work on, I will come back to the regional scale, because when you are trying to bring together the local needs of community, they are working at local scale. And when you are using remote sensing, maybe it's very important for you to start comparing what's happening also in Solomon Island, where you are from, because the methods you will use to analyze the remote sensing or satellite images will be very easy to apply somewhere, but the local community will give you another scale that you cannot find. So it's very important for you to compare the different ways people are dealing with their environment. This is the advice I wanted to tell you. And make sure that if you are in geography, you should say it, and in geography you have many fields of component. Is it social? Is it local? Is it runoff? You should be very careful about that. It's just an advice. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you so much.